Vandersloot, we just couldn't look away.
Absolutely. Even the suspect, Joran Vandersloot, was described as attractive. Everything about this case was attractive and eye candy, but of course it was a real-life nightmare for the parents involved, and they were going through hell. The day her daughter was reported missing, Beth Holloway Twitty flew to Aruba vowing not to leave until she was found. She stepped in front of the cameras at every opportunity to keep the story alive. Beth even did her own investigation when she felt Aruban authorities were failing her. Let's listen to Beth talking about her first meeting with the three suspects.
Really didn't speak with all three of the suspects. Only one of the suspects approached the vehicle that I was seated in, and what was given to me from him was a very condescending, arrogant, and very cold and somewhat powerful attitude.
Now, despite roadblocks early on, she never wavered, even lending her newfound celebrity to advocate for other missing persons cases. Vinny, how did Beth herself change how relatives of victims can use the media to become champions and even activists determined to solve crimes?
Yeah, you used the right word there, use the media. You know, we're in the media, we're out here to get the story, to talk to people, to find things out. And there's this, I guess, relationship between victims and the media that sometimes, at least in the past, victims would stay away from the media like they were the enemy. She understood how to use the media to keep the story alive, because if that story's alive, the search continues. The pressure stays on. And that's exactly what happened here. And as a result of her keeping the pressure on, Joran Vandersloot, the prime suspect in all this, has been pushed into the spotlight, remains in the spotlight, and he himself now has made certain alleged admissions as a result of what she's done. So she was able to not be a victim of the media, but able to sort of control and use the media to her advantage, which was to keep the story alive, to keep the search alive.
Absolutely. But Julia Renfro, you're in Aruba, you're a journalist. We also want to get the Aruban perspective. You can't be in the spotlight this much and not face some controversy and criticism.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And like you said, this is the perfect storm, the perfect girl and the perfect island. Aruba is renowned for having the friendliest people in the world, as well as being one of the safest islands in the Caribbean. So that's one reason why the media took off on this so quickly, because how could this happen in Aruba?
And Beth did suffer some criticism by the Arubans, did she not, Julia?
Oh, yeah. Yes, but that started when, actually in July, after the two Calpo brothers were released, she went on television and she asked, or she told the world that Aruba allowed criminals to walk amongst the tourists. And this was very upsetting for us, because that's not what happened. We understand with her, we empathize with her, but in the same time, the justice system, we believe in the justice system as if you do it, as in the American system, and there wasn't enough evidence to hold these boys.
Now, Dr. Archer, we can never judge a mother who has lost a child. I mean, we have not, thankfully, walked in her footsteps.
Right. Yeah, you can't judge. But what I will say is that what I counsel my patients in cases like this is you have to take the pain, the hurt, the suffering, the anger, and you have to focus that on something positive. And in her case, she focused everything that she had on trying to get to the bottom of what happened to her daughter. So I don't think we can criticize her in any way, shape, or form. She might have stepped over the line occasionally, but she was doing it for the right reason. She wanted answers, and she wanted to get the truth.
And the reason, Jane, she had to step over the line is because of the way the investigation went. Well, we don't criticize the system of justice in Aruba. The investigation, that's way up for criticism from day one. I mean, Joran Vandersloot is the man who's last seen with her. We've got him on videotape with her the night before. He says, oh no, I dropped her off and these two guys got her. And all of a sudden, the investigation shifts off of him and goes on to these other two guys who had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
So that's where the ball was dropped here, and that's why she was probably so upset. It's not the system of justice in Aruba, but the investigators, the way they bungled this case.
And you know what's fascinating is how videotape actually boxed Joran into a corner, not to the point that he was officially charged, but at least to the point that a lot of people felt, well, they'd finally gotten the answer. A blood-curdling twist in the case came last year when Joran Vandersloot was caught on tape admitting he was with Natalie when she died and that he knew what happened to her body. Let's listen to exactly what Joran said happened that night, caught on undercover tape shown on 2020, February 4th, 2008.
She's just lying still?
Still, she's not doing anything.
He says, what happened? I said, I don't know either, man.
Did you try to resuscitate her?
Of course, I tried everything, man. I tried to shake her. I was shaking the bitch. I was like, what's wrong with you, man? I almost wanted to cry. What the happened to me? I said to him, this is impossible. He took the boat, he went far out, and he threw her over the side. Then he came back, and he docked his boat there. And he came by my house for a bit.
At night?
Yeah. Then we talked for a bit, and he says to me, you know, it's all good. She's going to be missing, they're going to search, but they're not going to know a thing.
Wow, truly chilling to hear. Of course, Yoren later said he was just telling this guy what he wanted to hear. This hidden admission came 3 years after Natalie went missing.
You know, Jane, Jane, I wrote a book called Be Careful Who You Love. It was about the Michael Jackson case, but it so relates to so many cases. We send our beautiful young girls out there to enjoy the world and find their place in it and look at the kind of people that they can attract. I have to disagree with your reporter in Aruba. Aruba did let killers walk among the tourists. If it wasn't Joran van der Sloot in her mind, because the justice system hasn't proved it yet, there was somebody who killed that young girl. She did not just disappear into thin air.
Well, Julia, I want to give you an opportunity to answer that.
Okay, well, and I understand what you're saying, but actually the Kalpoe brothers have been released of any suspicion, and it has been based on, according to the statements and videos that Joran has said, these two brothers have nothing to do with it. They're innocent. And
I'm not talking about the brothers. I'm talking about Joran van der Sloot.
That's who was released, and that's who she went on television, and she asked the world to stop coming to Aruba.
Well, here's the thing, and we're going to get to the boycott issue in just a moment. I think it's fascinating. Okay. Obviously, there were problems with the way this investigation was handled. I think the people of Aruba didn't want to be tarnished with a broad brush, pointing out, for example, John Benet Ramsey case was never solved, and yet nobody was calling for a boycott of Denver. We will get to these issues again momentarily. Stay right there. More on the Holloway mystery in just a moment.
To be seen with her alive, and who offered at least a dozen different versions of what they did with her, and who admitted to committing or witnessing sexual assaults against her while she was unable to defend herself, are now free.
First you want to come through the TV and I want to kill him. I mean, and peel his skin off his face. And I think of the utter disregard he had for Natalie, and look what he's done to from his friends. Look what he's done to a country. Look what he's done to everyone.
That was Natalie Holloway's mother, Beth Holloway Twitty, on Nancy Grace, describing how she feels about Joran van der Sloot. I am back with my fantastic panel discussing how Natalie Holloway's disappearance changed America forever. Julia, you are on the phone with us from Aruba. How has the Holloway case changed the island of Aruba and the attitudes of Arubans?
Well, this was very, very painful for every Aruban. For the main part is the whole island was being accused of harming this young, beautiful girl, and that's just not what happened. And so, yes, there's people that are still upset with the situation, but at the same time, everybody wants to resolve, and everybody here wants to help solve this case, but we just don't know what to do.
Yeah, and we want to talk a little bit about why there was no charge against Joran van der Sloot, even after that tape we heard just a few minutes ago, where he seems to admit that he held a lifeless Natalie in his arms. But I think a key part of Natalie Holloway's disappearance was that it was a prime example of the world as a global village. Authorities from Aruba, the Netherlands, and the United States had to work in tandem. Natalie's parents and American viewers had to navigate confusing Aruban laws, at least confusing to Americans. They were confused when suspects were held for months but never charged. Cultural differences reared their heads, and an American boycott of Aruba was also endorsed for a time. Let's listen to what the Alabama governor, Riley, had to say about that.
Natalie's family believes, and I agree, that we've reached the point where there are no other viable options to get Aruban officials to take this matter as seriously as they should. So today, Beth and Jug are here to endorse a travel boycott to Aruba, and as governor, I am joining them in this effort.
Her parents even attempted to file civil suits against the suspects in New York and Los Angeles. Dale Archer, as a psychiatrist, weigh in on this. Many Americans didn't realize Arubans were also watching American TV. So this case has had a huge, a lot of turmoil. It's created tensions between America, the Netherlands, and Aruba. And how much of this is about cultural differences, about how Americans do things versus how maybe things are done on an island where the primary source of income is tourism?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt things are done differently, but I think that what's concerning here, and for most Americans, is the fact that, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there was so much that Jorn said throughout the course of the last 2-3 years that it's hard for an American to believe that at least there couldn't be a trial here. You know, he may be found innocent. There may not be enough evidence to convict him, but why not a trial? I think that's what we all have a hard time understanding.
Vinny, especially after we see that video of him apparently